The job posting looks completely ordinary. Security work. Good pay, weekly, must be available immediately. Text this number. It is on a platform you check every day, posted by someone who could be anyone, a stranger, or worse, someone from your own neighborhood who already made the jump and is being paid to bring in the next one. By the time you understand what you actually agreed to, you are hours from home, and the men who change their minds are not around to ask about it. This is your life at every rank in a Mexican cartel. Level 1. The recruitment rarely looks like recruitment. It looks like an opportunity, posted on the same apps you use for everything else, TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, promising more money in a week than your family sees in a month. You are, statistically, exactly the kind of person these offers are built for. Young, short on options, living somewhere the legitimate economy has never made much room for you. Sometimes the offer is honest about what it wants. Often it is not. A fake driving job, a fake security contract, a fake anything that gets you into a vehicle headed somewhere you have not agreed to yet. You respond to the message. You are told where to be and when. Someone picks you up. The drive is longer than you expected, and somewhere around the second hour, your phone loses signal, and something in your stomach understands before your mind fully catches up. Level 2. The location is isolated on purpose, a ranch, hours from any city that matters, the kind of place organizations like the Jalisco New Generation Cartel have used specifically to train recruits pulled in through exactly the offer you just answered. You are not alone. There are dozens of you, from different states, different cities, all lured by some version of the same message. Some of you signed up for genuine security work and have no idea yet what they actually agreed to. The training is physical and it does not pretend to be optional. Weapons handling, discipline, the specific etiquette of an organization that does not tolerate hesitation. And somewhere in the first days, you understand the part that nobody put in the job posting. The recruits who resist, who try to leave, who make their unwillingness known too loudly, do not get a second conversation about it. You do not resist. You learn quickly. Whatever you thought this was going to be, this is what it actually is now. Level 3. You start as a halcon, a lookout, the eyes and ears of the entire operation, and the lowest, most replaceable position in the whole structure. You could be 12 years old doing this job. You could be a taxi driver, a food cart vendor, a student, someone with a completely ordinary daytime life who spends part of it watching a specific corner for police, for rival scouts, for anything that does not belong. The pay is genuinely small, something in the range of $250 to $500 every 2 weeks, depending on the organization and the risk. Here is the part almost nobody tells you before you take the post. Halcones make up the majority of casualties whenever a territorial conflict heats up. You are cheap. You are everywhere. You are the first thing a rival organization tests when they want to know whether a plaza is weak. You stand your post anyway. You watch the street the way you were trained to. You report what you see, on time, every time, because the alternative to doing this job well is a conversation you have already learned not to have. Level 4. Somewhere in this stretch of your life, you start praying to Santa Muerte, Holy Death, the skeletal folk saint the DEA has specifically identified as a recurring icon among the Sinaloa, Juarez, and Gulf organizations. The altar might be small, tucked into a corner of a safe house, or elaborate gold-cloaked and jeweled, standing on a bed of painted skulls. You light a candle before a job that has nothing to do with faith in the ordinary sense of the word. You ask for protection, or luck, or the specific mercy of not being the one who does not come home tonight. This is not a fringe practice inside this world. It runs through every level of the organization, from the youngest halcon to men who have been doing this for 20 years and have long since stopped pretending they control any part of what happens to them. You keep a small token of her with you. Nobody questions it. Everyone here understands exactly what it means and exactly why you need it. Level 5. You move up into logistics, learning the corridor, the specific smuggling route your plaza controls, the exact rhythm of when product moves and when it does not. Part of the job is collecting piso, A tax, effectively, charged to every business and independent vendor operating inside your organization's territory, whether they are aligned with you or simply unlucky enough to be located where you operate. Refusal is rarely a real option for the people paying it, and they know that as well as you do. You learn the corridor the way you learned the corner as a halcon, by repetition, by memorizing which streets are watched and which are not, which officials look the other way, and which ones require more convincing. The scale of what moves through your hands now is larger than anything you touched as a lookout. So is what you stand to lose if any of it goes wrong. Level 6. You learn the phrase that defines almost every transaction this organization has with the outside world. Plata o plomo, silver or lead. Eventually, you are the one making the offer, not receiving it. A local official, a police commander, a rival vendor who has not yet agreed to pay piso. You explain, without needing to raise your voice, that there are exactly two ways this conversation can end, and one of them is considerably better for everyone involved than the other. Most people take the silver. That is not weakness on their part. It is the system working precisely as it was designed to. The offer only has to be refused occasionally, publicly, and violently enough that everyone remembers what the alternative genuinely looks like. You do not enjoy this part of the job particularly, but you have learned by this point that enjoyment was never really the requirement. Level 7. Some men move from logistics into enforcement, becoming a sicario, a hitman, one of the organization's primary tools for maintaining discipline both inside the group and against its rivals. The pay is meaningfully better than what a halcon earns, sometimes 4 or 5 times as much on a regular basis, occasionally far more for specific high-risk work. The danger scales with it. Sicarios are, by the organization's own internal logic, expendable in a way that is rarely said out loud but is understood by everyone doing this work. The specifics of what this job actually requires are not something this video is going to describe in detail. What matters is the cost, measured not just in the danger to you, but in what carrying this role does to the person you were before you took it on. Men who have done this work for years describe a specific numbness that settles in, a distance from feeling anything about it at all, which is its own kind of casualty even when the body count does not include your name. Level 8. Territory disputes between organizations are not occasional. They are close to constant, somewhere in the country, at any given time. A rival crossing into your plaza, a splinter faction breaking off to claim its own corridor, an old alliance collapsing over money, or an insult, or nothing anyone can fully explain years later. You learn to live with a specific, permanent background alertness. You learn which safe houses are actually safe this week and which ones are not. You learn that informants exist inside every organization, including your own, and that the accusation alone, deserved or not, is often enough to end someone's involvement in this world permanently. The violence is real, and it is not distant from you the way it might have felt when you were watching news coverage of it as a teenager. It is close now, close enough that you have stopped being surprised by it, which is its own quiet, permanent change in who you are. Level 9. If you survive long enough, if your loyalty and your usefulness have both held up under years of exactly this pressure, you might become a plaza boss, controlling an entire corridor, answering directly to the organization's senior leadership, collecting piso from every business operating in your territory. The position pays extraordinarily well. It is also by a wide margin the most targeted rank in the entire structure. Plaza bosses are well known to law enforcement almost by definition. The job requires visibility, relationships, a public enough profile that the corridor actually runs. That visibility makes you a priority target for rival organizations and a priority objective for the military and federal agencies on both sides of the border. The position changes hands frequently, and everyone who has held it understands exactly why. You are, at this rank, more powerful than you have ever been, and closer to the ending than you have ever been, at exactly the same time. Level 10. There are, in practice, only 3 real endings in this line of work, and almost nobody manages to avoid all 3 of them indefinitely. Capture, a federal indictment; extradition, a sentence measured in consecutive life terms rather than years, in a country that has made clear it does not intend for men like you to ever walk free again. A rival's bullet, arriving on a day that looked exactly like every other day until it did not. Or, if you are among the rare few who last long enough and rise high enough, becoming powerful enough that the fear finally runs in the other direction, that it is someone else's turn to wonder if today is the day. You think back to the job posting that started all of this. Security work. Good pay, weekly. It was not in any way that mattered, a lie. It simply left out which side of the security you would actually end up standing on, and what the actual terms of employment turned out to be. Every cartel member starts the same way, not with violence, with an offer that looked for a moment like a genuine way out of whatever situation made the offer worth answering in the first place. The organizations themselves shift constantly, splintering, warring, rebuilding under new names when the old ones become too well known to law enforcement. What does not change is the pipeline feeding them, one convincing message at a time, to people who ran out of other doors before this one opened. Somewhere tonight, a young person is scrolling through a job posting that looks completely ordinary. Security work. Good pay. Text this number. He does not know yet which side of that offer he is about to end up on. Subscribe. Tell me which level hit hardest.